The Starr and D'Amico Show, brought to you by cheapesttshirts.ca. Need blanks for your next event or club? Check out cheapesttshirts.ca. No minimum order, free shipping over $350. Same-day shipping on lots of items. Affordable, Canadian, ready to print your design. Brought to you by Catherine Prince at Remax Platine, your Montreal real estate connection. Call her at 514-702-2474 or email Catherine with a K, Catherine at catherineprince.com. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest with confidence, Catherine Prince, your key to the city's property market. Brought to you by McLean's Pub. Looking for a lively downtown spot with great food and atmosphere? Come to McLean's Pub on Peel Street. Classic pub eats, plenty of beer, and all the sports on all the screens. Grab your friends and make McLean's your go-to place tonight. Brought to you by Cabletel, your full-service telecom partner for business and home. From structured cabling and phone systems to Wi-Fi, cameras, and alarms, Cabletel keeps you connected, secure, and performing at your best. Your partner for the future. It's Cabletel.
You're muted, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's rush, rush, rush. Welcome to the Black Friday extravaganza. Looks like y'all aren't the only ones going shopping, looking for a deal. As Mike Matheson, welcome to breaking news in the breaking news department of the Starr and D'Amico Show, live on this Friday. Shout out to Little Bear at littlebearonline.com, proud sponsor of the show. Get all your Black Friday specials for all your pets with the best staff in the pet business. Shout out to Chuck and Evie and their all-star staff. Mike Matheson, we've been waiting for this, and Ken Hughes moves silently on this Black Friday, Marco, signing Mike Matheson to a 5-year extension with a $6 million AAV. Nice little bump in pay. And the immediate reaction is two thumbs way up on the Montreal Canadiens getting this tiny little bit of business done, signed, sealed, and delivered, Marco.
Absolutely. And I think, I'll go as far back as the beginning of this week. There was no information on Mike Matheson, none, in terms of their contract negotiations. We were talking about Adam Engstrom and what calling him up meant for the Mike Matheson negotiations. And to the point where you have to understand Mike Matheson is repped by the same agency, not the same agent, but the same agency as Lane Hudson. And they kind of wanted to avoid the noise that surrounded the Lane Hudson contract negotiation. And they did a fantastic job of that. I tip my cap to Philip Lecavalier, brother of the one, Vinny, that runs Cortex. They kept it under wraps. Nothing leaked out until the very last second. So I think that this is great for them. The only thing I will say is this is even better for the Montreal Canadiens. I guess if I had to ballpark it, I had heard around the $6.5 million range. So to get it at this price point is excellent. I think it's a fantastic point. I think the AAV is good enough.
Yeah.
I think the best sweet spot would have probably been 4 years for me, but at 4 years, it probably would have cost more than $6 million. I think that you offset risk with AAV. And by the time Mike Matheson gets to the age of 37, $6 million are basically what you're going to be paying a low-end top four defenseman.
It's funny, Marco tipped me off to this early this morning. I was still on the air on TSN 690, and immediately I'd reached out to someone I know close to the Montreal Canadiens looking to see if there's any more details that they'd be willing to share. And Marco, I literally got this text message minutes before we got on the air. I just wrote, I said, I wonder what the AAV is, because we were still waiting for that, for kind of some indicators, Marco, about what the AAV was. And my friend told me that, yes, the deal was getting close. And he wrote that it'll be a similar deal, he believes. No question, though, that term was the most important part of this deal for Mike Matheson. So when you talk about maybe 4 years, and then, what your sources were telling you, what I kind of heard a little bit here just literally minutes ago, that the term for a defenseman, past 30, looking for, the money is the money. Mike was getting paid no matter what. But I can understand at his age, right, that term was a bigger priority here.
Absolutely. And a player of his age, not that the man is younger than me, but a player of his age in his playing career, he's going to be 32 at the start of this next deal. It'll bring him to the age of 37. That'll be a comfortable age for him to then be able to kind of take it season by season. What's good is that this contract is signed now for the long term. It's not a 35 plus contract because he signed it at the age of 31, but kicks in at the age of 32. So there's no risk for the Canadiens. I'm interested to see what the trade protection is going to look like. I would assume that it'd also be front loaded so that he can get most of the amount of money in right away and then kind of have less salary at the end. These types of contracts will no longer be eligible to be signed as of September 16th, 2026. So I could see the Canadiens taking advantage of that. I wonder if it's going to be signing bonus heavy at the beginning as well, and then just salary at the end.
Yeah.
It also, and I'm waiting to see the contract breakdown because I didn't get the full contract details.
Yeah.
But I think what is clear and what is key is that when you were able to get to the 5 years, that Matheson Klein was able to come down to 6, because I was told by a couple of people working around the league, if Mike Matheson made it to free agency, and this might rock a couple of listeners, but if Mike Matheson made it to free agency, there are a couple of teams that were willing to throw $8 million at him without question.
I'm not surprised, because right off the hop, we're talking about a guy now whose contract will take him to UFA status at the age of 37. Right off the hop, I love the deal. I love the deal for the player. I love the deal for the organization. I love it for the fan base. And, my initial reaction to the 5-year extension at the $6 million AAV, if you're just joining us, Mike Matheson extended for 5 more years on this game day. The Habs play at Colorado at 4:00 today. There's no doubt in my mind that we're not talking about a contract, and I don't mean to bring this up in a disrespectful manner, but you knew at the time, just to give you an idea of the contrast, Marco, you knew at the time when Brendan Gallagher was given his deal by Marc Bergevin, the chances of that contract aging well were slim to none. I don't feel at all similar today about the Mike Matheson deal, about how this contract will age for him and the organization moving forward. It's a nice term, and it's a very digestible AAV at $6 million.
Absolutely. And I'll go even one step further. Mike Matheson is not your typical 31-year-old.
Exactly.
In terms of his shape. Like he had that, and obviously I'm going to knock on wood now that he signed his deal here, but from the moment he signed with the Montreal, or he got traded to Montreal, he only had that period where he first started with the Canadiens, where he had an injury of any length that kept him out, right at training camp. I think he missed the first month and a half or something. And then after that has been steady all the way. Well, to me, hasn't had any major structural injuries, is in some of the best shape I've seen any player be in, notwithstanding age. And this is a guy that takes care of himself in a serious way. So I don't think waiting till 37 is necessarily the risk that a lot of people thought it would be. I think anything beyond that could have been, but depending on the way that this is structured, the last year could make him movable, or the last couple of years could make him more movable if the contract is front loaded, right? So you can get the best years of his career. And then if you eventually do need to move on, you have the luxury or the space, maybe the last couple of years has a partial no trade clause that allows him to be moved to certain other teams. But what you get is Mike Matheson still in his prime, able to play a top 3 defensive role for the Montreal Canadiens at $6 million. You combine that with Hudson at 8.85 and Dobson at 9.5, you basically have what I consider to be one of the top 3 trio defensemen in the NHL for under, let me just do quick math, 9.5, 8.85. So that's about 18. And then you throw in the 6, you get him for basically 25 million. That is lunacy in terms of cap management from Ken Hughes. Just absolutely, nuts. And then you throw in Caden Gooley at 5.5. But really, when I see a Mike Matheson signing, a Lane Hudson signing, a Noah Dobson signing, and calling up a guy like Adam Engstrom and the growth of a guy like David Reinbacher, you can't help but wonder, what does this mean for Caden Gooley?
Well, that to me is where I wanted to take the direction next, because the top 4 is locked in. As you just
top outlined,
3, with Dobson and Hudson, Goalie as of now is still there, and Mike Matheson rounds it out. What about, there's too many bodies for not enough chairs, Marco. You just dropped Adam Engstrom's name in this conversation. Jaden Struble, Arbor Jacki, David Reinbacher. Too many bodies for not too many chairs. I mean, does all of this add up? Let's get into the speculation water. Does all of this add up to now that Mike Matheson, again, we were getting more and more viewers as the minutes go by here. Mike Matheson extended 5 years, $6 million AAV, takes him to age 37 at UFA age. Does this mean that there are now expendable players on the defensive side if Ken Hughes is looking to, again, bolster the 2C or get, a player that can help this team right now? That seems to be the next logical step in this conversation.
Yeah, I by no means think that they are shopping a Caden Goalie after this, but this is what I would say. A lot of people are saying that the Canadiens would regret a Goalie deal. If you were able to get a Tage Thompson out of Buffalo, or a Robert Thomas out of St. Louis, and the main piece is a Caden Goalie, I'm sorry, guys. I'm making that deal. Like I have no choice. So I don't like when when people look at the trauma of the past, the necessary trauma that the Canadiens have gone through by trading away defensemen too early. I get it. And with Sergachev, I understand why everybody brings that up constantly. The difference between where the Canadiens were in 2017 and now is the Canadiens had nobody behind Mikhail Sergachev. They had Victor Mete.
Correct.
Now they have two guys on the left side of the org chart that are left shot defensemen that are ahead of Caden Goalie. I'm not even saying trade Caden Goalie. I'm just trying to explain the logic behind why the Canadiens would explore that. But if you have two guys ahead of you in the pecking order and you're forced to play one of them on their offside just to fit them into the lineup, you have an excess and a quality excess. And you got to give to get in this league. You're not going to get a top end center for peanuts. For your slew of middle six prospects, a couple of first round, but no, you're going to have to give a legitimate piece. And I'm not saying it has to be Caden Goalie. This is why I'm saying there is Arbor Jacki.
Exactly.
There is Jaden Struble. There is Adam Engstrom, and there even is, although I wouldn't do anything right now in terms of Reinbacher, but there is even David Reinbacher. So the Canadiens simply have options now. They have clarity with the Mike Matheson contract that they didn't have before. So if they have to go out and get a top six center, and I mean a legitimate, I don't mean a hopium, I mean legitimate top six center, they have the assurances to be able to go and do that now. Doesn't mean they have to trade Goalie for it. Could be Engstrom, could be anybody else.
Could be a package of some of those names.
I don't think they'll include both. I don't think they'll go from a position.
But let me push back on the Goalie stuff for a second. Again, no one's saying the Canadiens are. I'm not
saying they're trading him at all.
Exactly. I just want to make that quite clear because things move fast.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, I'll give you a direct, clear example. Last year, this time or around the trade deadline last year, the Canadiens were one of the teams that were in on Dylan Cousins. One of the reasons the Canadiens missed out on getting Dylan Cousins was because Buffalo was looking for a top six piece that they would be able to swap out for Dylan Cousins, something that the Canadiens didn't have the ability to do. It just was not a good match. The same applies to when they were chasing Pierre-Luc Dubois in Winnipeg. They just didn't have the expendable pieces at that time, even though Winnipeg wanted Caden Goalie as part of the deal. They didn't have the expendable pieces to make that happen. Now they do. Now they have the depth. Getting a Noah Dobson via trade changes the entire defensive dynamic in terms of how you're able to build your roster. And again, I am not. Wow, someone just said trade Mike Matheson in the comments, buddy. Leave the room.
Sign and trade.
Sign and trade. Here we go.
Exactly.
Guy takes a hometown discount. Booty.
Yeah. Thanks for that. See ya.
That was great. So the way that I see it with Caden Goalie or Adam Engstrom or Jaden Struble or you name it is just the Canadiens have an excess of left shot defensemen. And they're trying to figure out which ones they can keep. They've already made a decision on Mike Matheson, evidently. And now they have to figure out which one of these guys become expendable because waivers are real. You can't keep Engstrom in Laval too long. He's clearly NHL ready and needs to get reps in. So by the way, I will add one thing the Canadiens adore adore a certain Adam Engstrom.
Yeah.
Because of his versatility,
Yes.
because of how intelligent he is, because of the way he can move the puck, because of his size. So I don't think that he's necessarily being shopped here. The Canadiens are taking info. Now, are there teams interested in Adam Engstrom? Yes. Yes, there are. A couple of them could be counted on my hands, I would say. But where I think you need to understand this is the Canadiens are taking information. They're trying to see, okay, what's this guy's ceiling? What's that guy's ceiling? What can this guy give me? How dependable is that one? If we build a championship roster, do we have too much of the same thing? Do we move this guy out to make room for that guy? These are the conversations being had internally. And now that you have a Mike Matheson signed, it's no longer a question of, okay, do we have to, who do we have to look at in terms of the top pair, in terms of the second pair? The Canadiens' top four is basically 75% set for the next 6 years. Don't have to worry about it. Now it's just a question of rounding out that top four, and then who are you going to be your role players on the bottom pair? That's where the Canadiens are at.
Well, look, like one thing seems clear to me, and we're going to see, right? I see, again, the live viewers are popping in left, right, and center. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you for joining us, guys.
Matheson's AAV is $6 million, 5-year extension. Breaking news on the Starr and D'Amico show. And I just want to weigh in a couple of things on Kaiden Goalie. First of all, unless it would be, a young, ready to go 2C. That's it. Marco's got the hand above his head.
I have a follow up to you.
But I just wanted, before I lose my train of thought.
Before I lose it.
Yeah, exactly. I see lots of comments, bye-bye Arbor Jack-Eye, bye-bye Jaden Struble or whatever. That trade alone, whether it's Jack-Eye Struble, is not going to get you, pick your name. You fancy Robert Thomas in a hypothetical world that he's available, that's not going to get it done. You're talking about getting Kaiden Goalie for Robert Thomas. That's the type of transaction. You want Elias Pettersson out of Vancouver, not that I do, but if you do, if the Vancouver Canucks are strategically unloading, it's going to cost you a Kaiden Goalie, in my opinion. So that's kind of where I see that going. And I like Kaiden Goalie a lot, but it falls into that old cliche of, yes, if you want to get, you're going to have to give, and you're going to have to make a decision there. But you know what my pushback would be? Kaiden Goolie's 23 years old, okay? 3 years ago, 70 games. Last year, 55 games. This year, he's played in 5 games. Like, if I'm St. Louis, just to play devil's advocate, if I'm Doug Armstrong, why would I trade a marquee piece to my team for a guy that's, quite frankly, unreliable? Why would you trade for him and give up a future piece to the Montreal Canadiens for a guy who's proven year after year after year that he's not available all the time?
From what the perception, every time I speak to an a pro scout or an exec from another team about the Montreal Canadiens, the conversation always ends up with Kaiden Goalie.
Agreed. I've heard the same.
And how he is the prototype gush over defenseman that teams, scouts, GMs, like when this guy is healthy, and I think that's the key asterisk here, he is just like worth his weight in gold. You add the fact that he's only making $5.5 million for the next 5 seasons after this one, and things get very interesting when it comes to him. Not only for the Canadiens, but for any other team trying to acquire him. Like, you bring up the St. Louis Blues. They acquired Kaiden Goalie. He's their top pair left shot defenseman. You put him right next to Colton Parayko, and you run with it. And I'll tell you right now, the St. Louis Blues, they very much like Kaiden Goalie. He was one of the players that they asked from the Canadiens when the Canadiens were interested in Jordan Kyrou type.
Right.
So that's Doug Armstrong's kind of player, and that's not only Doug Armstrong's kind of player. Nashville likes their defenseman exactly like him. And again, I'm not saying that there's rumors going around that Kaiden Goalie is being traded, but you could be an opposing general manager and appreciate a player, right?
For sure.
That's why I'm saying, like, these teams like Kaiden Goalie. A lot of teams in the NHL
he's still
Kaiden
23
Goalie.
Also. He's not 33, he's 23.
Again, this is why I say it. I really want to I want to move away from this, but this is why I say this. I saw one piece of content yesterday on TVA Sport. I think it was Jean-Charles Lajoie, who said that they should consider moving Caden Goalie for Ryan O'Reilly.
Right. I saw
And
that.
I just wanted to address this on some medium. That is perhaps the worst idea possible from an asset value perspective, is trading a primed player signed long-term for an aging vet with 18 months left on his deal. That is the worst possible thing you can do. If you trade a Caden Goalie, you are trading a Caden Goalie for a can't miss top six center.
Agreed.
And I mean, when I mean
Yes.
can't miss, I mean can't miss for the next 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 years.
Yes.
I mean age appropriate. I mean a guy that when you trade a Caden Goalie, as gut wrenching as that would be, if that would be, then you would be able to swallow the pain of letting him go and being like, the Canadiens got the better player here. That's the only way that's happening ever. The Canadiens are not going to shop Caden Goalie. They're not going to, none of that happening. All the Mike Matheson signing does is it gives them clarity to be able to move forward with a plan to improve their roster at forward by using some of their excess defensemen. That's it.
So it takes us now into the competitive window for the Montreal Canadiens. You know, we talk about Noah Dobson linked for the foreseeable future. Lane Hutson got his term, got his money. Now here we are reacting to the Mike Matheson 5-year extension, $6 million AAV for what has been an anchor for the Montreal Canadiens, and I mean that in obviously a good way. David Reinbacher developing in Laval. Adam Engstrom makes his NHL debut this week. My initial, again, just to add to my initial reaction, love the deal for the player, love the deal for the team. Makes a lot of sense. Term was arguably the priority for Mike Matheson, so he gets his 5th year. I think if we're talking about a team, Marco, that's trying to, how do I say this, pry open. They're trying to pry open their Stanley Cup window so that hopefully one day they can walk through it and bring a 25th Stanley Cup back to the home of hockey, Montreal, Quebec, Canada. This is how you do it, in my opinion. You build a foundation, a strong foundation of speed, of talent, of experience, Marco, on the defensive side. And this adds to it, does it not?
I mean, again, we talked about it before. Like it adds assurance. It adds a level of stability both on and off ice that the team didn't necessarily have. Like if you factor in the group right now and you think that, and in your mind, Alex Carrier isn't a long-term fixture on this team, then a guy like Mike Matheson is the only veteran on that team. Right? Like I think a Noah Dobson is a good young veteran. Yes, he has been in the league for 6-7 years now, but it just allows the Canadiens to ensure that they have a good veteran presence that can be at an elite level right now. And, you know, should he slow down at some point in the next 5 years, can slowly have his responsibilities kind of separated amongst the rest of the group, like a Lane Hutson, for example, who started taking penalty kill shifts, like an Adam Engstrom that will be coming in and gobbling up more 5-on-5 minutes, and like a David Reinbacher, who, in my opinion, would be taking up a lot of the defensive missions that Mike Matheson has right now, if he reaches his potential. So there's opportunity here. I think what it also does is it reinforces the notion of culture. I think that's the biggest thing that is unquantifiable when you look at these contracts, but it's the theme throughout all of them. When Lane Hutson was negotiating, when Lane Hutson's representation was negotiating the contract, they were getting pressure from two ends. They were getting pressure from Kent Hughes, and they were getting pressure from Lane Hutson. Why? Because Lane Hutson wanted an 8-year deal in Montreal. He wanted to stay, and he did not want to sour the relationship just to push for the most amount of pennies that he can get. In fact, the Canadiens had an 8 times 9 deal on the table. So 8 years times $9 million on the table for Lane Hutson. And Lane Hutson is the one that decided, I'll take 8.85. I'll take a little bit off the top for you. Just, as everybody else has done. Well, Mike Matheson, you can very much argue, took a little bit more than $150K off the table to take that deal with the Canadiens. So again, a player that is committed to Montreal, committed to this team. And I'd add a player that's never been on a Stanley Cup contending team.
Right.
He's never, ever been.
Yeah.
And so there was also, and I think this is where Kent Hughes played this game. He used that against him. in those negotiations, use the desire to stay in Montreal, use
Mm-hmm.
and
He's
I'm
home.
not saying he did this maliciously. It's part of the
Yep.
negotiation. Whereas like, well, if you want to stay, we need you to take one for the team. Just like Lane took one for the team, just like Caulfield took one for the
Yep.
team. Caulfield could have signed over $8 million at the time when he signed and wanted to be under Suzuki in terms of salary. Same thing you can say with Juraj Slafkovsky. And obviously, we just finished talking about Caden Gooley's sweetheart deal as well. Everybody took less.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the culture that's being built in Montreal. And I expected one of their leaders in the room to follow suit. But, you know, this was Mike Matheson's last real, like, cash in moment.
Yep.
And he still took one for the team. So to me, you know, yes, Kent Hughes, great contract, but to me, all the flowers go to Mike Matheson for choosing Montreal over chasing the dollar.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Mike Matheson in the scenario where he doesn't find common ground with Habs management, left multiple millions of dollars on the table to stay home. And clearly the buy-in is off the charts for his, experience and where he believes this team has a chance of ending up. But what about the guys behind him? I mean, Arbor Jacki didn't play in Utah. Adam Engstrom made his NHL debut. Jaden Struble for the last couple of seasons, right? A Boston kid, been linked in rumors here and there. Things have quieted down a little bit, but let's get back to too many bodies for not enough chairs if we're rounding out the 6 defensemen moving forward on an almost everyday basis. What do you think the future has for, Arbor Jacki, Jaden Struble specifically? I mean, do you see them as long-term fits for what this team is building?
One of them must be traded, as I guess, because when you build out a team, like if you look at championship winning NHL clubs, they have an established elite top end top 4, and then their bottom pair will play anywhere between 10 to 13 minutes in the playoffs, right? So I don't necessarily think it's a major priority right now as to who fills out the bottom pair. You just got to make sure that you have the right combination on your top 4. And I think that's more where the Canadiens are at. So I think based on the fact that you have a Matheson, Dobson, and Hudson and Goalie, I think the player that exemplifies the qualities that lack the most amongst the 4 players I just mentioned is Arbor Jacki.
Right.
Physicality, the reach, the potential to be a crease clearing defenseman. You know, obviously the physical stuff as well, like the fisticuffs, the being able to defend his teammates. He does that with more regularity, I find, and brings that element more so than Jaden Struble. Jaden Struble, don't get me wrong, I think Jaden Struble's an NHL defenseman on a plethora of NHL rosters right now.
Yeah.
But I think where I have issue with Jaden Struble is what's his identity? Like what lane's he going to take? Is he going to be a fast puck moving defenseman? Is he going to try to be more of that physical enforcer guy like Arbor? And so that's kind of why when you put them next to an Adam Engstrom, you see a clear kind of identity with Adam Engstrom. You see a clear identity with Caden Gooley, with a Caden Gooley. You see a clear identity with an Arbor Jacki. I just don't see it with a Jaden Struble, which doesn't mean that he's not valuable, but it's just, is he more of the same when you should be trying to diversify your decor? But again, I'm also of the mind that when the Canadiens are going to be in a true contending form, they're going to be trading for that final bottom pair piece anyway. So I always feel like when we talk about the bottom pair, it's kind of moot. The only thing I stress is it's best if the defensemen that play on your bottom pair have the potential to be more than that, then it is your job as a general manager to maximize that potential in the form of a trade to improve your roster at a position of weakness. That's my take.
I don't disagree. And again, like you look at someone like Alex Carrier, right? Who's slumping lately, but that's beside the point. The guy's making 3.75. He's got 1 year left after this year on his current deal. Depending on how David Reinbacher develops And if Adam Engstrom is in the front office's long-term plans, I mean, there's another defenseman that we haven't even spoken about yet on this live show that, is this someone that we could see wearing a Montreal Canadiens uniform next year as it falls back into the category? You have a lot of talent. You have a lot of guys on the come up. One of them's already here. And in the best case scenario where David Reinbacher stays healthy, he shows that maybe his skill level's too good now for the American Hockey League and he's ready to make the jump. Well, then he makes the jump.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's a fascinating puzzle that Ken Hughes is starting to solve. But
yeah. But one thing I will
you're going to have Reinbacher, you're going to have Engstrom, you're going to have these guys being protected, perhaps on the bottom pair of this team, while having the veterans and the skill up front. Right? I could see it
exactly. And I think this is where the importance of getting a guy like Mike Matheson signed is ever more so present. Is surrounding these younger players. I've spoken to Caden Goalie about this. I've spoken to Lane Hudson about this. I've spoken to Struble. I've spoken to Jack Eye. The impact that Mike Matheson has on them, off the ice, on the ice, during practice, while traveling, that there is a value in there that is important. So I understand, again, why they went and did this. When it comes to guys, like you have a bunch of young defensemen coming up, you can't keep them all. Lane Hudson signed for 8 years. Dobson signed for 8 years. That's it. It's over. Now the question becomes, how do you fill out your last 3 roles? Who fills out your last 3 roles? Is Alex Carey a long-term fixture on this team? Will you be extending him at the end of his contract? That depends on David Reinbacher's development.
Mm-hmm.
But then, are you going to have an Engstrom-Reinbacher pairing when that comes to pass in September of 2027, if my mathematics are correct? So for that to happen, Engstrom would have to get his feet wet earlier than not in the third pair left or right defensive role, so that you're not icing 2 rookies on your bottom pair as you're trying to make the playoffs on a regular basis. So that's the mindset that you have to be weary of as a general manager. But it's a great problem to have if you're looking to improve, because bottom pair defensemen, you can sign those on the free agent market. You can trade for those at the trade deadline. The Canadiens will have a significant amount of prospects to be able to move. It's just you have to be able to do it at the right time. And I think that's where the Canadiens are different. In an interview that we had with Jeff Gordon in the summer, and then kind of reiterated at the Canadiens golf tournament, he mentioned that the Canadiens could be picky in terms of which players they're willing to trade away and which kinds of players they feel would be the absolute best fit to add. That's where I think this is going. Canadiens are in no rush now. They have all the assurances they need. Now they can just evaluate which of the other pieces they can play with to be able to move ahead. But again, when we talk about trade, whose position, who's left on this, I really do want to take it back to Matheson.
Yeah.
I really do want to talk about what I've been told, right? And I've been told, I just got another message about this. I'll read it out loud. Canadiens got a steal, could have easily signed an 8x7.
Yes. Yeah, I don't disagree.
Imagine teams so desperate on defense with how thin the defensive market is going to be on the free agent side of things on July 1st, that they were willing to give him 8 years until he was 39. That's nuts.
Think about all the roles he's played in. So many roles. He's been such a great teammate. He's been such a leader. Where is this defensive side now as it grows with Dobson and Hudson and Goalie and Matheson? Where are they in the power rankings here? Obviously, we're working.
I said it. I think if you come just the top 3, like if you go 1, 2, 3 on a depth chart in the NHL, I think they're a top 5 team in the NHL for that.
Yeah.
And you look at, their 5-on-5 metrics are through the roof. I think Noah Dobson has 11 points in his last 12 games.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, again, you don't trade players like Noah Dobson. Thank goodness it's worked out for the New York Islanders. Emil Heineman's doing great. Kashawn Aitchison looks great in the OHL. Book's a little out on Victor Eglin as of right now in the SHL, but he's supposed to be coming over to the Islanders farm team next season, so they'll be able to work with him there. But I think, getting a guy like Dobson, signing a guy like Matheson, signing a guy like Hudson, you got to think about this, man. This all happened within 6 months?
Yeah.
Almost to the day. I think Dobson's trade was the 28th of June to the day. So you get basically your defensive core signed for the equivalent of 6-7 years, 8 in some cases, and you have a goalie. If you don't, even if the Canadiens didn't want to touch their top 4, they'd be set. Under 30 million, your top 4, even by this summer, that'll be well below average in the NHL. So they have the ability to take their time with their defense. Where I think is a little bit more interesting, or I think a little bit more of a fun discussion, is how long will Mike Matheson be this team's number one defenseman? Because he is this team's number one defenseman right now.
Correct. And to me, he's going to be the number one defenseman for probably another, I'm going to guess right now, I'll throw it out there, for 3 years of this 5-year deal. Like, no disrespect to Noah Dobson, but I don't think he's going to be the guy that plays those minutes. I don't think Lane Hudson is going to be the shutdown guy. That, again, is going to absorb a lot of those minutes. We finally saw him play some shorthanded time, but Mike Matheson is going to be the Canadiens' number one defenseman for 3 years, and maybe David Reinbacher takes over that in the best case scenario eventually.
I don't think David Reinbacher is a number one defenseman in the making. I think that there is significant potential that eventually it's Dobson that takes over as the number one. And I think the Canadiens are kind of lining him up for that. And then we'll eventually slide Lane Hudson into Mike Matheson's spot. And Mike Matheson will have more of a shutdown role on the second pair. And that will be interesting, because who is going to be paired with Mike Matheson at that point? That's the real ticker. That's what the Canadiens have to figure out.
Dobson's getting paid like a number one defenseman. I wonder. He's
also playing like one.
Yeah, I'd like to see him. I'm already ready to see him play a little bit more. But I don't think they're at that stage yet, and that's why I think for at least another couple of years he's going to still be that minute-eating, experienced guy that Noah Dobson can learn from. And listen, I have high expectations for David Reinbacher. I like this young man's game. And we'll see what happens as he continues to develop with the Laval Rocket.
Yeah. Leave him alone, and no one's going to be disappointed.
Totally. But where does Adam Engstrom slot in a world where he stays here? Like, what does he project to be when he's comfortable and the game slows down?
I think Adam Engstrom's ceiling is a puck-moving top 4 defenseman. I would almost say at the point of where he's at right now, Mike Matheson light.
Right.
That's what I think he can be. So an all-purpose defenseman capable of moving the puck. I don't think he'll be as physical as Mike Matheson. And so I don't know that he'll have the defensive utilization that Mike Matheson currently has, but I think he's a level right under, with the same kind of offensive skill set, with the same level of mobility. And so that's why, I'm not running for the hills in terms of he's going to be the greatest ever. But I do think top 4 defenseman in the NHL with regularity, a guy that you can play 18 to 20 minutes, that could chip in on the power play if you didn't have a Lane Hudson or a Noah Dobson on the team, but also a guy that I feel plays the style that the Montreal Canadiens want to play, which is that quick pace counterattack kind of mobility hockey that they've kind of built their defense around. So I can see that. I could definitely see that. And so this is why I say the Canadiens now have to have different pieces in play. They have to be able to assess their roster in different ways that are going to force them, I believe, to really kind of look at key roles. Who's going to play what? For example, if Lane Hudson isn't going to play regular shifts on the PK, that Dobson and Matheson will. Who are your other 2 defensemen that are going to be doing that? When healthy, Caden Goalie, and then who's the other guy? Right? And even if there's one of those guys play lots of minutes, take a penalty, who's the next guy up after that? So you always have to have 5 guys that are willing to play that defensive role. So when you go to build out your roster like that, that's what a coach is thinking about. So for a general manager, how do you feed Martin St. Louis the right elements?
Yeah.
You have to make choices, right? Because they have the right elements. Now it's a question of which one goes well.
Correct.
And so
That's why the Arbor Jackeye angle to me is very fascinating. And you heard Martin St. Louis talk about this after the Utah game, right? When he was pressed en français about what's going on with Jackeye, and I loved I loved what I thought was a very honest answer when he asked him, when he finally got to the answer around Arbor, is that, these guys want more minutes, right? They obviously want more minutes, but it's very situational. And that right now, even MSL admitted in French that there are guys right now on the team in the organization that are probably ahead of Arbor Jackeye. And I don't know what his role is. I don't know what his future is going to be in Montreal, but what we do know are facts in that he went into camp, I think, with a job to lose. I think they wanted him to be the guy who rounds out their sixth spot on the defensive side. And I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think he's fulfilled that end of the bargain. I think Adam Engstrom is here for a reason. I think Jaden Struble keeps playing and Arbor hasn't played. I think that's for a reason. But when you propose that question about next man up, guys in the penalty box, so on and so forth, I would bet they were hoping that Arbor Jackeye would be the answer to those questions that you threw out. I think that's what they were hoping for this summer. And maybe he'll get there. I'm not saying he can't get there, but right now, I don't think they believe. And that's why they're trying different things on this road trip. And we'll see if Adam Engstrom's going to play today. I wouldn't be surprised if he does.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to break up a winning combination, but I didn't think they were going to break up a winning combination last game.
And they did. The Montebo's playing today, right? So...
Yeah, I mean, goalies is different. I didn't think that they were going to go back to Dobesh. To leave Montembeault cold like that, I have difficulty with it. I think we do see Texier in tonight, though. I do think so.
For Davidson.
For Davidson, yeah. I think eventually Davidson will be loaned back to Laval.
I agree.
As predicted on yesterday's live, the Canadiens plucked Sammy Blais away from the Toronto Maple Leafs and sent him to Laval.
They're getting these other team cast off, right? I mean, they're just getting cast off players from other teams,
Well, it was originally their cast off, right?
I understand that, yeah.
But I think that this is minute, not needle moving moves, but it's needle moving in the sense that they don't have to disturb prospects in their development.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's as simple as it is. And Sammy Blais, I mean, like, even if he plays in Laval, Sammy Blais was a clutch veteran for the Abbotsford Canucks last year in their AHL Cup win, right? And so I think that he has the kind of elements that you would want that can bring him to your lineup and can help young players in Laval. Like putting him with Owen Beck and Philip Meshar and trying to get them going, I think that it's going to force Pascal Vincent to utilize him in different ways this weekend, but I think it's a great thing to have. It'll be excellent for Laval, and that's the reason he didn't join Montreal. They didn't have to put anybody on waivers for him to come to the Canadiens. Canadiens are only a 22 men out of 23, but they just sent him back to Laval for the time being. And when the Canadiens are back, because they're going to have the opportunity to play a lot of games at home over the next couple of days. They have so many games coming up. It's insane. You're going to need to be able to bring up guys and, bring them into your lineup and pull guys out. It's going to be a marathon this next week. So I really hope that, everybody that's listening doesn't take offense to some of the roster decisions that are made, because they're not being made in a vacuum. They're being made because they're looking at the schedules coming up over the next, 26 days. They play 15 games. It's just nuts.
No, it's nuts. It's nuts. And let me ask you this. Points wise, in this 3-game road trip, Utah, Vegas, Colorado, points wise, what would you have defined as a successful road trip? How many points?
Given the strength of schedule, I think Utah, Vegas, and obviously Colorado are top half NHL teams, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I would have thought that breaking 500 would have been successful.
I agree. I don't disagree.
To me, if the Canadiens get a point in the next 2 games,
agreed. I agree.
I'd be willing to go one step. I want to go one step into this, though. That was before Matheson signed.
If they came home with 3 out of 6 points, I would say good job. Good job. Yeah. That's why I believe Doba should have played today. Because Colorado,
I think that's
Colorado. You look at the Colorado, you go L. You put an L on the schedule. You put an L.
What happened the last time Dobish played Colorado and everybody thought it was an L?
I understand. I'm playing the percentages. That's a fact. What you just said is factual, but I'm playing the percentages in 2025. That's all I'm doing. I'm playing the percentages. What gives me a better chance of defining a successful road trip? And Vegas is no pushover, but they have lost 3 in a row.
Mhm.
All I'm doing is playing the percentages. That's
So
why I
here's
would
an
have gone with
idea for
Gobert.
you. You have 3 back-to-backs in a row.
Correct.
You put Montembeault against Colorado and he gets blown up.
Yeah.
Then you have you have 2 games at home against the Winnipeg Jets and the Ottawa Senators. Senators being the first game. You put Dobeš against the divisional rivals, cool. And then you have Montembeault playing with 0 confidence, 1 game in the last 2 weeks against a team like the Winnipeg Jets.
Bro, he's got an 852 save percentage. He has no confidence.
I'm 100%.
He's not beating anybody these days.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
But there is a dual way to look at this. I think playing the percentages is a loser's mentality that a coach cannot afford. It's a coach cannot afford. With the amount of back-to-backs you have this season, your priority, number 1 as an organization, is to get both of your goalies going. And number 2, the Canadiens need to see what they have in Dobeš for real. I don't want Dobeš to have the easy game. I couldn't care less if I'm a general manager if he has the easy game. I want to see how he performs against the top teams
That's fine.
in this league. Because if he has a future with this team, if he's going to be more than a backup, then I want to be able to see him keep his team in the game against the Colorado Avalanche. As simple as that.
They've played 22. How long is this going to go on for? How long are we going to keep saying, hey, you got to get him going? They've played 22 games. 25% of the season is over.
You try overplaying Dobeš when he burns out and you got to go back to Montembeault and his confidence is shot too, then there's going to be a complaint that they rode Dobeš too hard.
Listen, again, I think the burnout is a cop-out. Like, I'm not saying he's going to play 50, 60 games this season.
Buddy, he lost a game in overtime in New Jersey and started crying. Like, the pressure will get to him at a certain point in time.
Oh, you're bringing up the crying?
Dude, everyone brings up the crying. He gets chirped for it on the ice playing against him.
We knew that, and I'm sure his teammates bust his balls for it too.
Okay, but you don't think that the organization sees that and goes, okay, well, maybe we have to approach this differently. Right? And that's what's happening here is you are putting Dobeš against Colorado to test him. The Canadiens, like they feel confident they can win any game. They can go up against any team.
Agreed.
And I don't think looking at this game and being like, well, this was the more winnable of the 2 games. The Canadiens should have put the hotter goaltender there. Okay. But there is a real consequence in 2025, 2026 in throwing your backup goalie to the Wolves, right? Your less performing goalie to the Wolves.
Yes.
Amid, an external goalie controversy.
What happens if Monty gets lit up again? What happens if he gets lit up in Vegas and the team is chasing the game like they always are when he's in net? What happens then? What line of thinking is the fan base going to use? What happens now?
Nothing. They have no choice but to continue with it because the Canadiens aren't calling up Fowler. You have to run these 2 guys. This is what it's going to end up being. I don't agree that you should be playing percentages when it comes to how you utilize your goalies. In fact, from what I've heard from NHL coaches, and this is the way I view it as a competitor, I'd rather you give me the harder team. Give me that challenge. Give me Colorado. Give me the Ottawa Senators. Give me the New York Rangers. I think it's the Rangers and the Leafs back to back, or the St. Louis Blues and the Leafs back to back.
Right. Yeah.
So, that doesn't really matter. The 2 teams are in the bottom of the standings. Have fun. But I want the Senators if I'm Dobeš. I want Colorado if I'm Dobeš.
I don't disagree. And I don't think Martin St. Louis goes into any game thinking, oh, we're going to lose. None of these guys, you don't get to the NHL thinking like a normal person. Oh man, we're going to get our asses beat tonight. We have no chance. No. Like Dobeš, as you said about Demidov, he wants the smoke. Collectively, this entire team wants the smoke all of the time. They believe that they're a very, very good hockey club. To a man in that room, they believe that about themselves. So let's not pretend that they go into this like with a beer league mentality when you leave your accounting job and then going to go play at Bonaventure Ice Rink on Côte de Liesse. Ça marche pas de même. They don't think that way.
I do see a lot of comments saying that Fowler won't see the NHL for 2 years. If the Canadiens make the playoffs, you best believe that the last couple of games of the season, Fowler will see a start. That's all I'm going to say on that one.
Would you say you
But
think he's
I don't.
this year at the
He'll
end of
get,
the
oh
year?
yeah, I think he'll get a game at the end of the year if the Canadiens clinch earlier than game 82. How's
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But you know, the only thing I would say is the Canadiens don't want to rush Fowler, and they won't.
No.
But if they want to give him a candy at the end of the season for a good year of development, especially after not rushing his entry level contract to kick in last year and only having it start this year, they'll give him a game. I'm not worried about that. But
you think
I think
Jack Guy
Canadiens
stays out? Do you think Jack Guy stays out again today?
I think Jack Guy gets back into one of the games. I don't know if it's tonight. It could be tomorrow, or sorry, this afternoon.
Yeah, 4 o'clock. Yeah,
tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I think it's easy to think that the Canadiens will lose this game today because Montembeault is in nets. I do.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's easy for you guys to think that. I'm just going to put one little detail out there. One of the leaders of this team just extended his contract.
Correct.
To stay with the Montreal Canadiens for 6 years, taking a team discount. You're very fortunate that there's no practice today in Vegas, because or else they'd be swarming the hell out of him on the ice. I expect this team to come in guns a-blazing trying to win this game for Mike. That's the way I see it.
You're just joining us here. We've been on the air for 51 minutes here.
Already? Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. Please hit that like button, subscribe for daily Habs content. We have a video out today on the asking price around Ryan O'Reilly of the Nashville Predators. Barry Trotz, the general manager out in Nashville, looking for a first-round pick, looking for an A-grade prospect. We'll see what happens there. Again, just, even Pierre LeBrun just continues to talk about how, and I get it, they are the Montreal Canadiens. Anytime you throw the Habs brand into the speculation waters, you're always going to get a big splash. I get that, no doubt, right? But just again, the quick reaction to this: Mike Matheson extended for 5 years. It's a $6 million AAV. Marco, no more details. Trade protection, NMCs, things
We're
of
waiting.
that nature.
I've sent out a couple of messages just to see if anyone's seen the structure of the deal.
Yeah.
It still hasn't been registered with the league yet, from what I'm being told. It's signed, but you can sign a deal and then it's got to get registered by the league. So we won't necessarily know exactly what it is, but we'll definitely I'll definitely keep you guys updated in terms of what the structure is. My personal opinion, Kent Hughes has never really put himself in a position where a contract can't be bought out. That was a Marc Bergevin special, to be honest with you. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is early trade protection, like a no move in the first 4 years and then a partial no trade clause in the last 2, front loaded with bonuses, mostly salary at the end.
That's what I heard.
That's what I'd see.
Yeah,
that's what I'd see.
Front loaded.
So, well, yeah, in this day and age, especially that they're going to take away the concept of being able to front load, especially with signing bonuses, I expect that weighed into the negotiations, and the Canadiens use that as an advantage in the negotiations to advance this and get the AAV they wanted. Because again, it's $6 million AAV, but if he gets 18 million of that in the
cash
first
up front,
2 years,
then
that money by the end of the deal is worth more than the 18 million at the moment of it being paid out.
But it's one of those rare deals,
doesn't it?
It falls in the lap, of this is a great. I think it's a great deal for both sides. I think Ken Hughes can sleep comfortably with a smile on his face, and I think Mike Matheson can call his wife and say, "Babe, we got a great deal. We're staying home for the next 5 years." The Point Claire native locks up for 5 more years. One of those rare deals, man, that I think makes both sides happy with the way it was finally structured, right?
Yeah, well, I think when you piece this together, it's a difficult thing to separate because Kent Hughes used to represent Mike Matheson.
Yeah.
So you have to separate the person from the player. These guys are friends off the ice, right? So when it comes time to negotiating a deal like this, Jake Evans's contract negotiations went all the way to the trade deadline. We didn't even make it to the halfway mark of the season and this deal was signed, right? And I think that's extremely telling. That tells you how much Matheson wanted to stay, tells you how much the Canadiens appreciated him. And when the two came together to be like, $6 million's enough, As a Canadiens fan,
Yeah.
looking at this, look, I can get some people's concern that it takes him to the age of 37.
Yeah.
Fine. Like
Fine.
I'll always afford the devil's advocate, but age 37. So let's do the math here. This deal kicks in the 1st of July, 2026.
Mm-hmm.
So 6 years from there is 2032. Do you know what the salary cap is expected to be in 2032?
Yeah.
No, take a shot, Shaun.
In
2032. Just in consideration that next year is supposed to be at
Jesus.
105 and the year after that is supposed to be 115.
Okay, I was going to say
So
113.
there's 4 years after that. What do you think the cap's going to be?
125 million?
In 2032? 2032, we
7
may
years?
see some expansion.
Yeah.
So
I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
yeah. So we're looking at somewhere close to 150, 160 million.
160. Wow.
Because the TV deals are going to spike.
Yeah.
The TV deals are going to spike. You guys should see what ESPN is paying for some of this stuff. Like, it's nuts. And if you add more teams, TV deal is going to go up, and advertisement's going to go up, and partnership's going to go up. And
I've been waiting
so
my
on
whole
and so
life
forth
for hockey to catch on, and I just, we'll see.
Well, right now,
so.
the average NHL team is worth more than the average baseball team.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Damn. I'm here for it.
I'm here
for it.
I think it's catching on more than fine. I think it's just a question of, it's the TV deals, it's the visibility. But in terms of value, NHL has the value. I think they could do a better job marketing the damn sport, but I think they definitely have value. So I think where I would potentially put it is even if on a more, let's say, conservative scale, we say 140 million.
Yeah.
What is 6 million of 140 million? It's less than 5% of the cap. Less than 5% of the cap.
Yeah.
Right now, 5% of the cap is like 5.1 million.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's also, the other layer to that is, like I mentioned off the top, and again, I'm just going to mention Brendan Gallagher, because at the time of the contract, I don't know anybody that really loved it or thought that it was going to age really well. Like, there's 0% chance. Mike Matheson, I don't think is going to lose his legs between now and the age of 37. Yeah, maybe he's not going to be as dynamic, but he's still an upper echelon. He's in great fitness, and he was born to skate.
I know. I just had a mobster vision in my mind of, could be terrible if something happened to your legs, eh, Mike?
Yeah.
But no, nothing's going to happen to Mike Matheson's skating ability on ice.
Yeah.
I think he's just perfect in terms of the way that he keeps up his body. I think he takes very good care of himself. I think he has not been injury prone at all, despite playing a rather physical game and a ridiculous amount of minutes that I wish would actually be reduced, but I'm not the coach.
Agreed.
But I, again, will state that the risk is excessively low, that the Canadiens wouldn't be able to move on from that contract should it become a problem. I don't think it will, but the door is wide open for them to be able to do so at a cap hit like that. Like, I would be more than shocked that the Canadiens, at worst case, wouldn't be able to retain $1 million or $2 million and trade him to a team. I just don't. It's too good of a contract. The AAV is too low. And I think fans are going to be very, very surprised at some of the contracts that are going to be signed in the next 6 to 7 months. Because if last summer was any indication, with Provorov, who I think is an inferior defenseman to Mike Matheson, signing for 8.5, or a Gavrikov signing at 7 times 7. And I think I even thought that was a deal. Now you're seeing a lot of guys signing in the 9s. Thomas Harley, 10.6. I think you're going to see a lot of top 4 guys signing for $8-9 million soon. And we're going to be looking back on Mike Matheson's contract before the opening of July 1st this offseason and thinking, damn, they got ahead of it.
Well, you do, while we're doing math class, salary caps and cap space and AAVs and everything else, their top 4 defensemen today, from Matheson to Dobson to Hudson to Goalie, you're getting each of them at less than $7.5 million. That's pretty, on an average, 7.46. 7.46. per man for your top four. Man, dude, that is some freaking great math. That's a great
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah. To
Like,
get
it's
all of these,
29
to get
million and
those four,
change.
yeah,
Yeah.
to get all those four under 30 million is just absolutely
Woo.
bonkers. And again, now the Canadians have 2 contracts to sign this summer.
Yeah.
Ivan Demidov as of July 1st and
Yeah.
Zachary Bolduc as of any time now. I think they have time with both, obviously. They have no choice, in
Yeah.
fact, with Demidov. But I think, again, the flexibility for next summer is there because if I remember correctly, they had something north of 20 million available to them, projected 20 million available to them next summer. Let me just go and double check now. The projection, I'm on the wrong site. The projection for them is 20 million, or was 20 million before the signing.
Projected
So,
20. Yeah. Yeah.
So cap projection, 20 million after this signing. That's nuts.
It
20
is.
million
It
after the
is.
signing. They have
Yeah.
Demidov to sign, but his contract would only kick in July 1st, 2027.
That's right. Yeah.
And then Zachary Bolduc. So really, it's Zach Bolduc, which I wouldn't foresee, unless he really, really pops off.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
foresee being a bank breaker.
He's not breaking the bank. Yeah.
No, I don't. I think, conservative estimations, I'd say, 4 or 5 million if he really starts taking off and they sign him to a bridge or whatever.
Dude, it's the Demidov one for me. Like, when you look at
Well, that only kicks in the year after that.
for Suzuki, 7.85 for Cole, 7.6 for Demidov. For Slavkovsky, I mean, sorry. Where's Demidov going to slot in? Yeah.
Oh, Demidov's going to slot in right around Noah Dobson in the 9.5 to 10 million. If he continues his current pace and hits 70 points as a rookie, he's probably going to wind up there. But again, that's a guy who I think even if he takes that range, would be taking less than what his market value would be compared to his peers.
Yeah.
But I don't think that Demidov is the kind of guy that's going to, I don't think that Demidov's the kind of guy that's going to push. Like, even if you look at other Dan Milstein clients, they all left money on the table.
Yeah.
Right. Kucherov signed a bridge, and then I signed what I thought was a pretty fair deal at 9.5 million in Tampa Bay. Vasilevsky, same concept. Mikhail Sergachev, his contract looks like a steal right now. What was it, 8-year, 8.5? I don't think anybody's complaining about that right now. Yes, Tampa had to move on from it, but it was a good trade for them too at the time as well. So that makes sense. I don't necessarily think this is going to be a hard style thing with Demidov. I think his performances will determine what his money is going to be, and I don't think it's going to get more complicated than that. That's the vetting process that the Montreal Canadiens go through when it comes to choosing a player. Is they also want to make sure that these guys aren't flight risks or that are going to be non-team players when it comes to these situations. Guys that buy in, talented players that buy in. That's what they're looking for. So I don't think Demidov's going to give them any trouble in that regard. So again, $20 million now to spend next summer, and they only have Bolduc and Arbor Jack. I apologize, to sign for them. Those two combined should not cost you more than 5, maybe 6. So easy estimate, you'd be working with about $15 to $14 million to improve this roster.
Lane Hudson, Noah Dobson, Uri Slavkovsky, Cole Caulfield, Mike Matheson now, Caden Goalie, Nick Suzuki, all linked up into the 2030s and all coming in at $53 million. This is some good math. This is some good bang for your dollar in the salary cap era when we talk about performance in for dollars out. Solid bit of business of work by this management team moving forward. And obviously, I mean, the Nick Suzuki contract comes from the Marc Bergevin regime. I'm aware of that. So there you go. Breaking news live on this.
The Nick Suzuki contract was a knee-jerk reaction to having lost out on their top centers and Kotkaniemi being offer sheeted.
Yeah.
So I mean, yes, good job, Marc Bergevin, for signing him to, a very wealthy contract at the time for a player that was third on his wish list when he was negotiating with the Vegas Golden Knights. Good job. But I think it would have been silly not to sign him to that kind of a deal given the fact that they had
Yeah.
zero center depth
Correct.
after having, and then trading a first and a second
Yeah.
for Christian Dvorak when no other team in the league was offering more than a first.
Yeah.
So,
a lot of people, though, like I remember the reaction. A lot of people did not like the Suzuki deal when it was handed out. A lot of people,
remember the Athletic?
national and local people, did not believe Suzuki was going to be a number one center. But
one
here we
of
are
the
today.
one of the worst value contracts in the NHL. I'll always remember this. And ladies and gentlemen, these are not me. These are quotes.
Yeah, air quotes for the yeah. By the way, I know I don't mention this enough. I should. This podcast that you're all a part of today on YouTube.com. All of the shows that we do are available in audio form as well. So if you missed some of it, you can go back, you can watch it on YouTube, or you can listen to it on your favorite audio podcast platform. A pleasure to bring you a breaking news edition of the Starr and D'Amico show. Big shout out to Cheapest T-shirts, Little Bear, McLean's, our friends at Cablatel, the authority in home alarm systems. Check them out at cablatel.com. And of course, Catherine Prince, if you're buying or selling your house, you want to be closer to Mike Matheson in the Bell Center? Catherine Prince has over 20 years in the business. Even if you just need an estimate on your home, she's going to be able to point you in a professional direction and handle the business with professionalism and that sharky business savvy that you need for such a earth-moving transaction, Marco.
And I would also add, it's Black Friday.
Let's go.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention Canuck Jackets Black Friday sale going on right now up until December 1st, up to 40% off some of the best jackets you're ever going to find. I was outside, it's snowing and really windy, and I didn't feel a thing. In fact, my feet were colder in my boots than my body was wearing this jacket. So anybody that needs a winter jacket, Canuck Jackets, please go and check them out on Rachel in the Plateau. Their sale goes on until December 1st.
Thanks for being a part of the live stream today. You guys were fantastic. Like and subscribe for daily Habs content. We'll be back Saturday morning. That's tomorrow, Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. I know we have a lot of people listening from different time zones. So just want to point that out so we're specific so you don't get to miss anything. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., as the Montreal Canadiens look to hand the Vegas Golden Knights a fourth consecutive loss, and we'll see if Sam Montembeault can be the man that can help them do it. For Marco D'Amico, I'm Shaun Starr. Thank you so much for being with us live today. Looking forward to seeing you all again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Marco, enjoy the rest of your Friday.
Anytime, any place. If ever there's news, we'll be here for you guys. Have a great one.